Hello everyone, for1wrestling.com. This is Bill Apter. February 20th, 1975. The headlines in the Miami Herald. One of the most horrific days in all of wrestling history. One of the most horrific days in just about everyone's lives. And one of the four men who was in this plane crash that claimed the life of Bobby Shane, and also on that plane was Buddy Colt, who was piloting that plane, and manager Gary Hart, and a man named Dennis Mike McCord, who survived and eventually morphed into this fellow right here, Austin Idol, 40 years. Welcome to the Apter Chat.
Thank you, Bill. It's of course it's a pleasure to be here with you. It's unbelievable that it's been 40 years since this happened. I mean, it's hard to believe. It seems, for me, it seems like yesterday.
So, actually, we know you're Austin Idol, but if you wouldn't mind removing the glasses, so there's glare generally from my head that people complain about, but there he is.
You're not asking me to strip, are you, Bill?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and discuss this, and it's something, of course, you could not be lighthearted about for so many years. It was hard to talk about, and I remember just a few days after the plane crash, you were kind enough, when I was working for the wrestling magazines, to do an audio interview with me, and I'm trying to get that audio tape so we can run it either today or somewhere in the next few weeks. But 40 years later, and you told me this 40 years ago, that you didn't think you would ever stop having nightmares about that day. Are you still having nightmares about it?
No.
Okay.
I don't have nightmares about it, and the thing is, Bill, for me, I'm the kind of guy that really focuses on today and not yesterday or tomorrow. So I really focus on today, but occasionally, something might trigger it. And when it does, I'll think about it, but I won't dwell on it. So I'll give it some thought and I won't dwell on it. It's just like this big article that hit, I think it started actually in the Tampa Tribune, then it went to the Miami Herald, the Washington Times picked it up, and it kind of went all around the country about the crash, which was 40 years ago.
Yeah. So back then, of course, there was no social media, there were no cell phones. And I remember the way I had found out was I called the Tampa wrestling office to speak with Gordon Soley to get information on what was going on with the TV that week. And at that point, I think I was only one of like 2 or 3 people to find out about it. Can you imagine if that happened in this day and age of social media?
It would have gone viral.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, it would have gone viral. I mean, it was such big news back then. And, of course, wrestling was so different. I mean, it was so different. And in Florida, in particular, if you can, I know you can remember back, Eddie Graham being the promoter, and he was a genius. And the way Eddie had built that area, I mean, truly, professional wrestling was viewed just about like the National Football League. I mean, it was that credible, and it was huge news when that event happened.
Yeah. So the one of the points that I wanted to bring out about that crash that Bobby Shane unfortunately couldn't get out of. Tell us, for the people who don't know about this, if you can kind of give a shorthand scenario of what happened that day and how you survived.
Well, it's such an unusual story. That day we were going to fly from Tampa to wrestle in Miami. Then, as a matter of fact, I was booked on a commercial airlines. I was booked on Delta Airlines. Yeah, so I was going to fly Delta, go down to Miami, stay over and fly back on Thursday morning. And during the course of the day, my friend Gary Hart said, "Hey, I'm flying down with Buddy Colt and Bobby Shane, and we have a seat.
And Gary Hart, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have a seat available if you'd like to fly down with us." He said the upside to it is that you can fly down and be home that same night. You don't have to stay over. And I told him, I said, "No, I'm set, Gary. Thank you, but I'm going to go commercial." And then throughout the course of the day, Gary kept saying to me on and on, says, "You know, you really ought to come down. You really ought to come down." And you know, sometimes you just, even though your inner voice is telling you no, you disobey your inner voice, and usually that's going to bite you. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So I disobeyed my inner voice, and I went for the trip. Trip down was fine. Coming back, everything was beautiful. The skies were perfect. The stars were perfect. It was a beautiful fall night in February. We were about 50 miles out around Sarasota. Weather is still beautiful. And Buddy, who I did not know at the time, only had 50, like in 50 hours. That's
As a pilot, yeah.
50 hours is nothing. Of course, I didn't know that, you know, and I was probably.
Well, no, you get caught up in the whole, come on, let's go, yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, Buddy had, we had flown out of Tampa International, and Buddy had called Tampa International just to let them know where we are, and, you know, he was going to be landing there relatively soon. And they, the flight controller said Tampa International is closed down due to weather, rain and fog. And the flight controller said, "But you can land at Prudhoe Knight Airport. It's open." So it depends on how you define open.
Mm-hmm.
Open for what kind of qualified pilot, a visual rated pilot or an instrument rated pilot.
Mm-hmm.
But he was not instrument rated. And the controller, who knew that because he asked Buddy, he said, you know, "You should be fine." And Prudhoe Knight is off of Davis Island, where a lot of the Yankees live. Derek Jeter's built that big, colossal home there, and a bunch of those guys live there. But it's right there at Tampa Bay. So as we were coming in for the landing, Bill, the weather continued to degrade. Visibility was degrading. It was raining, and finally, Buddy saw the runway lights, and as he went to approach the runway, by the time he got in there, he was too high.
Yeah.
He wasn't low enough to actually touch down and land. So he instinctively pulled up on the yoke and banked. And now, I mean, it's fog. You can't see anything. You really can't see anything. So he banked, and when he banked over the actual residential area there.
Yeah.
And then came back over the water, and I mean, nobody was saying anything. It was so intense.
Of course.
Everybody knew that this was serious. And as Buddy was banking, he's now over the water, and we're all looking for the runway lights. The next thing I knew is that, I mean, this happened in a flash. I saw water, big white caps. And by the time my brain registered water, crash, bang, we hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost like have you ever had a dream where it was in slow motion?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. This was like everything went into slow motion. And really, if I would have died in that crash, it would have been a very easy way out, no doubt about it. But all of a sudden, when I saw the white caps, and oh my God, I don't think I even got the word God out. I think I wanted to say, oh my God. Everything went into slow motion, and it was like I was tumbling in the water, and it was just, you know, so surreal.
Yeah.
And the next thing I knew is that I was sinking down into the water because the plane obviously crashed. Yeah, I'm sinking into the water. And if it would have knocked me out, I would have been dead for sure. I would have been dead. I'm sure it knocked Bobby out.
Yeah, yeah.
But it did, thank God, it did knock me out. And I'm sinking and I'm fighting. I mean, I'm fighting to get out of my seatbelt because I've realized, gosh, you've crashed, but you're not dead. I'm trying to get out of my seatbelt. And for whatever reason, maybe because it got wet, I mean, I really struggled to get out of that belt. But finally, it came loose. And I was trying to make my way to the surface, but I was sitting in the cockpit in the front side, the passenger side up front, where Buddy is in that small plane. It has those foot pedals, rudders, they call them. So my feet got caught underneath those rudders because everything was crushed. You saw the pictures of the plane. You said,
Yes, yeah.
Anybody survived that. But my feet got crushed, hung underneath those rudders. So I was trying to, extricate myself. And finally, grace of God, my feet actually slipped out of my cowboy boots.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I made my way to the surface, and which was another freaky moment because it's 2 o'clock in the morning, February 1975. That was the summer. Earlier that summer was when the movie Jaws came out.
Oh, right, of course.
People across the country were scared to get in the shower, much less go swimming. You remember that caused a big deal.
Yes, yeah.
Freaked people out. They wouldn't go and get in the water. And so Tampa Bay is notorious for sharks. It's just it's a.
I never realized about the. I've heard this story from you years ago, but I never realized the shark element.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so, but I was aware enough to know. So man, here you are in Tampa Bay. I'm at the surface now. And it's just eerily quiet. All I could hear was water because it was whitecaps.
So you hadn't seen Gary or Buddy at this point yet?
Nobody. I thought I was the lone survivor.
Okay.
Yeah, and I yelled out, "Is everybody okay?" Nothing. Just the water and me. And I'm thinking, everybody's dead. And then I believe I heard Gary's voice first. He yelled out. And then eventually, Buddy yelled out. I hollered out for Bobby, and didn't get a response. Tried it a couple more times, no response. And then, I thought, yeah, it was terrible. It was to no avail. I dove down, and this is not like a hero story because it's not. But I dove down into the water a couple times, thinking maybe I could feel for him. Maybe I could grab him. And, it's dark, you can't see, it's freezing cold, and a couple of times, and I gave up and said, well, he didn't make it, and then we all swam for the shore.
Horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, so here I am, 40 years later, alive and well, and thankful and grateful.
Yeah. How did you get to Civil back, how did you get to the shore? There.
Well, we swam, and it was a couple of football fields away.
I was going to ask you how far you were away.
Yeah, about 600 yards.
Yeah.
Pretty good swim.
And if I remember correctly, there was a home there, and the three of you knocked on the door, and.
Well, not quite. We. Here's another thing. It's a strange thing. It was low tide. If it had not have been low tide, we would have all drowned. But it just happened to be low tide, and so we all saw lights that said to us, okay, there's where the homes are, swim toward the lights, and there was a dock, a pier, a dock.
Yeah.
And by the time we got there, Buddy couldn't stand up because of his injuries, as you know, he was horrific.
Yes.
I couldn't stand up because I had some bad injuries myself, and I couldn't stand up because I had foot injuries.
I remember that picture that you sent that we ran in the magazine of that big hole under your toe. I mean, I never was able to get that out of my mind, that chunk out of your foot.
Yeah, a big chunk. Like an ice cream scooper just taking the flesh out of your foot.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand up. And so we got down on our knees, and Gary got up on our shoulders, and he hoisted himself up onto the pier. And Gary was a mess, broken back.
Yeah.
Blood was everywhere. And he went to the door of that particular home, which was a doctor's home. And reluctantly, they let this bleeding guy in because I'm sure he looked like a monster. And I think it was week or two before, they'd had a murder on Davis Island. So the neighborhood's all freaked out.
Oh, of course. And now here you have somebody, yeah.
Yeah, and so they let Gary in, then they called emergency, and then they came with choppers and the whole deal.
Boy, what a story. And I know about all the years of physical rehab that you had. And eventually, thank goodness that you were able to get back in the ring and become Austin Idol. And well, it's funny because this is one anniversary that you look at every year on the calendar and get the chills that that's the day that this happened. And I wanted to make sure, it's funny because you and I talk a lot on the phone, but what was weird is that I just out of nowhere the other day, I said to you, when was the anniversary of the crash? And you said, it's coming up. February 20th, and we hadn't talked in a few months.
Right.
And it's weird that we just connected, and for some reason I just haven't asked you that. So there was a reason we needed to be here today to remember what happened and how we lost Bobby Shane as well. So thank you for doing this today.
Absolutely, Bill. Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Now, I want to. I know you're doing a lot of things these days. First of all, if fans want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Go to my website. Just Google Austin Idol. You'll see Austin Idol's official website.
AustinIdol.com, sure.
Just Google Austin Idol. You'll see Austin Idol's official website.
All right. And this being February 20th now, tell us moving forward where people might be able to see you in person and, what else you're doing these days.
Well, I've got a lot going on, Bill. In terms of some personal appearances, March the 8th, I'm going to Ripley, Mississippi. So Ripley, as in believe it or not, believe it.
Okay.
I'm going to be there. So that's March the 8th.
I believe it.
Yeah, that's a Sunday afternoon at the I believe you pronounce it Tippah County Convention Center, where I'll be doing some autograph signings. And I'm kind of stoked about that because I think that's about 80 or 90 miles from Memphis, where I had a pretty good run.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. All you Memphis people out there, from the days that he feuded with Jerry the King Lawler, you got to go down and see him.
Yeah, it ought to be a gas,
Yeah.
So I'll be there. Then May the 9th, I'm going to Dothan, Alabama at the Houston County Farm Center, and that's going to be for another autograph signing. And from what I hear, they're going to have a lot of stars there, and that'll be cool because I haven't been back to that area in a long time. As a matter of fact, right there, that little farm center is the night where I wrestled Flair.
Is that right?
Yeah, actually beating for the belt. They turned the decision over, but it was mayhem. It was total mayhem. But that ought to be very, very cool. And then August 8th and 9th in Pensacola, Florida, is the Pensacola Paracon.
Yes.
It's at the fairgrounds. I know last year they drew about 30,000 people to this event. So
Wow.
I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there smiling and signing and
looking pretty.
Fucking and jiving and that whole bit, man. So so I've got that happening, Of course, I'm a character in a movie, Dead Afterlife, which they're trying hard to get it produced. I think they're getting close.
Well, that's great. And when that happens, you're always welcome here on the Apter Chat to talk about that. You know that.
Thank you. I've written a Austin Idol fitness and nutrition booklet, and matter of fact, it's available on my website, and it's pretty cool because this is a compilation of years of fitness tips, nutritional tips. There's recipes in there, but it's a very, very cool thing that could help anybody.
So they can find all this information out at austinidol.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, last question. I love to do this with people. I love to do this with people old school who really know how to do this. Is there one opponent you never wrestled who you would have loved to have headlined at Madison Square Garden?
That I never wrestled.
Yeah. It could be someone from the deep past or even a current guy.
in the Garden. God.
Well, I'm just using the Garden. It could have been at the Omni. It could have been any. To main event, you versus who was that dream match?
So many. I think if I had to choose one, I might go for something just totally bizarre.
Who?
George the Animal Steel.
Okay, so let's do this now, just to show people how different things are today and how people from the old school generation, not meaning anyone's old, but different teaching, watch this, okay? Hello, everyone. This is Bill Apter. Tonight at the Garden, it's going to be George the Animal Steel against the challenge of Austin Idol. Austin Idol, we've got you here to discuss your match tonight. Would you please look into the camera and tell us what you're going to do against George the Animal Steel?
First of all, an animal belongs in a cage.
Okay.
But this one just happens to be roaming the streets in the middle of the night, going down every dark alley, searching for a fresh piece of meat. And he thinks he's gonna gobble me up, Bill. He thinks he's gonna attack me like a savage dog, like a rabid dog in the middle of a ring in Madison Square Garden. And he thinks he's gonna get away with that like he's done for so many other people in the past. He's knocked them all off. Bruno Sammartino, you name it, Morales, you name all the big stars. But the one that he hasn't knocked off is me. And he won't, because I have something for him that he's never seen before. As a matter of fact, nobody in the history of professional wrestling, nobody has ever seen before. So if you really want to see something, if you want to be part of history, you buy a ticket to see the Universal Heartthrob Austin Idol against George the Animal Steel in Madison Square Garden, because, baby, I'm going to come at him like nobody you've ever seen before. I can't wait. I'm going to fight him. I'm going to chew him up. He doesn't know what an animal is yet.
I'm getting a message on a screen over there on my other computer from George the Animal Steel, and let me see if I can. He's saying, "Nice." That's it.
What a vocabulary.
Yeah, that was terrific. Austin Idol, thank you so much. Let's see if you wouldn't mind pointing your finger into the camera there. And as we always say, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for being here on the Apter Chat, Austin Idol.
If you'll do me one favor.
Yes.
Please get this message to Tori Wilson.
Oh,
Please.
yes.
Tori, I understand how you're feeling. I know what you're going through. I know the frustration and the anxiety that is filling your sweet little brain up. But remember this, Tori. Patience and perseverance gets results. Austin Idol is easy to find, but he's hard to get. But once you get me, Tori, you won't forget me. No way, baby. Please tell her that.
We will make sure she sees that. And for you fans who are possibly confused about what this is all about, several months ago I did an interview with Tori Wilson, and I did not mute my cell phone, and my buddy Austin Idol called me and had a few words for Tori Wilson. So, okay, we'll make sure she hears that. We'll see you at the matches, Austin Idol. Thank you so much again. We love you. We're so glad you survived and you keep surviving and you're still out there, and we'll see you at the matches.
Thank you, Billy.